Welcome to our AM News. Now, Madina MP BONIFACE ABUBAKAR SADDIQUE is assuring work on footbridges on the Madina-Adenta Highway will be completed in about 4 months. He tells JoyNews President Akufo-Addo has given executive approval for emergency release of funds for the completion of the footbridges after he raised the issue at Cabinet. Numerous deaths have been recorded on the road this year alone. The Ghana Highways Authority had indicated work could be done in a year, but the MP says it could be less. Mr. Saddique says portions of money for the work have already been released.
I had the opportunity to be in Cabinet. We raised the matter. The President, in his own wisdom, has given approval for the completion of the footbridges. You know, it was being constructed by a Chinese company.
Where the President has given approval means what exactly? Because earlier there was a complaint that funds were unavailable. The contractor
what you should know is that the whole bridge is about 10 years old now. Under normal circumstances, the major part of the whole bridge has been done. What is left is just the arms of the bridge, where you climb and where you descend. That's the only places that were left. But that is the footbridge itself.
So that the President's approval is that what exactly?
Which means that the President has authorized the Minister for Finance to assist the Minister for Roads and Highways to ensure that those bridges are completed. But the fact that the approval has been given doesn't mean that the project will be completed immediately. There are systems. Procurement processes have to go through before you can get it done. And my follow-up with the minister, in fact, he gave me the assurance.
The finance minister or the roads minister?
The roads minister, which means who has indicated that within a period of 3 months, they should be able to get procurement processes done. And I don't think doing the arms of the bridge should take you more than 1 or 2 months. And so I'm very sure that once the bridges are awarded a contract, because originally the contractor, listen, let me finish. What is happening is that the contractor who originally began those bridges is currently in the country. The contract has not been abrogated. But because of the nature, because this contract was tied to other contracts. The main road, that is the highway to Aburi, was done by the Chinese contractor, and the bridges were part of the contract. And that is why they were able to, yes. And the same Chinese company has now moved to the Suhum dual carriage. And so they've gone back because they demanded payment of some amount, and part of that payment has been done. So they've moved to the major project. But negotiations have gone through to ensure that those projects are taken and given to other contractors. Because if you go to Madina, there are 6 bridges in number. And so the minister, in his own wisdom, is thinking that it would be better to give it out to 3 contractors, so that each will do 2. And so if they give them out immediately, at least we think the bridges will be done as quickly as possible.
So that if I'm to put together the timelines you've given, about 3 months.
I'm not the minister.
Initially,
let me tell you, initially when I was in Cabinet, the minister gave assurance, based on payment to be made, the construction should have begun in October. October is past. Nothing has begun. But now that some payments have been done, I'm sure, and his time lines that he has given, I'm sure maybe within the next 2-3 months we should see the contract taken
hopefully
off.
In the next 2-3 months, the
that will mean that by
that will take another month.
Yes, maybe next year. Let's say January to March, we should have the bridges completed.
This problem has persisted for a while. As MP, what pressure have you seek to pile on your own government to get it done? More than
my brother, I've told you that I took this matter to Cabinet. This bridge is not just 1 month old. It's 10 years. I was part of President Kufuor's cabinet when the construction was going on. Now we lost power. NDC came to power for 8 years. 8 years, not 8 months. 8 years, but they never did anything. We never complained.
You heard there Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, our parliamentary correspondent, in that conversation with BONIFACE ABUBAKAR SADDIQUE. Now, one person is feared dead in a motor accident on the Accra-Tema Motorway. 4 others were injured in the accident, which occurred at about 2 p.m. Tuesday after their bus ran into a heap of concrete debris on the side of the road in an attempt to swerve another vehicle that was overtaken at the time. Eyewitnesses say the injured were rushed to the Tema General Hospital for treatment. Kenneth Awatredako's report.
The 49-seater bus belonging to the construction firm Rabotech Limited was said to be heading to its Tema office when the accident happened. An eyewitness, Emmanuel Omari, said they had to appeal to passers-by to help convey the victims to hospital.
Roadside, the bus was coming from Accra towards to Tema. So there's a small car swerve. So you wanted to swerve the car, but it couldn't happen. We have some concrete for us. I think it clamped the concrete, so we couldn't swerve it. So by that time the bus was turning. So we have people, so they also be helping. So one guy gets inside, the way we push him. So we push him, then we put a legs to the back. So we rush him to the taxi. I think the one owner was joining him to the original hospital.
Maxwell Frimpong runs a business along the Accra-Tema Motorway and complained bitterly about the indiscriminate manner in which workers who patch the potholes on the route abandon their materials.
What we have to do is we have to advise those concrete people. They are normally creating. It's not only this place, they have tipped another one over there. The same thing happened last week. So I think it's a matter of advising the road users, the national safety campaign. They should educate the drivers very well, because how can you be on a motorway and be swerving to a different place? So I think we have to advise ourselves as a driver. We have to advise ourselves how we control our speed on the motorways.
Meanwhile, the injured are said to be responding to treatment at the Tema General Hospital.
Majority Leader Osei Chairman Sabunsu has described as populist Kumbungu MP Ras Mubarak's decision to ride a bicycle to Parliament to protest what he says is hardship in the country. The MP says he rode 17 kilometers to Parliament House on Tuesday morning to, among others, highlight the rising cost of fuel in the country. He tells JoyNews these are unprecedented times.
I did that with the view to highlighting the concerns that have been raised by constituents, by ordinary Ghanaians who are feeling the burning injustices of our society, who are struggling to get by, the taxi drivers who have had to complain about their inability to make, to make their sales, the market women and men, the barbers. It was to highlight their plight. For the first time in the history of our country, we have never seen the kinds of job losses, the kinds of things we are seeing today, where businesses are going bust, where companies are collapsing, where people are struggling. I've seen people who can't even raise 100 Ghana cedis to buy medication. I've seen people who are working but their salary can't even take them to the 15th of the month.
Hasn't it always been so, even when your party...
At what point in the history of our country did you see many media houses laying off workers? At what point? At what point in the history of our country did you see fuel price hit more than 5 cedis per litre? At what point in the history of our country did you see the cedi to dollar being over 5 Ghana cedis? At what point? So this is the first time.
Well, Majority Leader Osei Chairman Sabunsu concedes the price of fuel has gone up, but says government cannot be blamed.
I concede that the price of fuel has risen up. But what are the factors? The factors really are legion. First of all, we all agree that the market price should reflect the world market price. At the time of the exit of the NDC, the price of fuel was between $37 and $40, right? Today, what is it? So, commensurately then, If we want to be mathematical about this, one would then suggest that the price ought to have gone up at least twofold, because today the price of fuel, petroleum, is in the region of 75, 76. Sometimes it even shoots up to about $80 per barrel. That is the first segment. The second thing, of course, would be the strength of your own currency. There's been some depreciation of the cedi. We all recognize that. What is the cause of the depreciation? Unfortunately, what is even happening cannot be blamed on government. When you know the truth, I want to play to the gallery. It's cheap populism. It's not only populist, it's not merely populist, it's cheap populism.
Now, some past and present student leaders of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology say continued government interference in reconstituting the governing council will further delay reopening of the school. Students are expected back on campus on Thursday after being sent home following violent demonstrations which led to massive distraction. Government dissolved the council and replaced it with an interim body, but later tasked Chancellor Asantehene Otumfuo II to reconstitute the council. There's, however, disagreement over a government insistence members of the council must not include members of the previous council, a position opposed by lecturers and staff. A group of students led by past student leaders want government to soften its stance on the issue. Here's Nanaya Ojima's report.
Government on Monday announced no member of the old council will be allowed to be on the new governing body. According to government, they are party to the impasse the Teachers and Education Workers Union and other interest parties have kicked against the directive and withdrawn their services. Students who are in support of TEWU's stance believe government's replacement of its representative to the new council is enough to ensure neutrality. The group calling itself School Must Reopen Now movement is being spearheaded by former Student Representative Council President Samuel Amwakukusi notes some bodies will need fresh elections to change their members on the council.
And these unions select their representation based on their various constitutions that govern the various unions. In the case of SRC, the SRC constitution clearly states and emphatically that the SRC president, by virtue of the position, shall be the representation of students on the university council. And also, these associations, namely TEU, ITAC, and SRC, go through elections to elect individuals to office, knowing very well that those individuals they are electing into those specific offices will be their representation on university council.
The frustrated students believe government's objective to bring new members to ensuring impartiality in resolving the impasse is flawed. They argue it defeats government's earlier decision to present some members of the old council to join the interim council. Mr. Mwakukusi says government's new membership on the council can guarantee the needed fairness.
But if government argues that none of the members of the old council should be on the new council because the old council is a party to the impasse and that they being on council amounts to presiding over matters in which their own decisions and conduct is a subject of investigation, then we say, why is it that interim council that government constituted 2 weeks ago with a 3-month mandate to investigate the route and resolve the differences had 5 members of the old council? Weren't they going to investigate their own actions?
In the midst of the issues, foreign students are on campus waiting for reopening. Former president of the International Students Association, Kenechukwu Egbe, says foreign students rule under the present condition.
You would have to make expenses and incur costs, financial liabilities, and now because most of the shops aren't open, it means that that means the greater the financial liability for students. So I'll say a lot of students are not happy at all. Yesterday they had the ISA, that's International Students General Assembly, and most of the questions that were thrown at the student leaders or the leadership of the ISA bordered around when will school resume. So a lot of students are frustrated.
Reporting for Joy News, Nanaya Ojima, Kumasi.
And later this morning, there's a press briefing by the local chapter of UTAC at the KNUST. Will bring you live update as and when that press conference gets underway. The Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, has launched an operation in the Upper West region to ensure that products have tax stamps on them before they get to the consumer. The exercise, which is being replicated across all 10 regions of the country, requires distributors and retailers to affix their tax stamps or risk having their products seized. JoyNews' Upper West correspondent reports from where.
The tax stamp, also known as exercise tax stamp, came into being in 2013 by the Excise Tax Stamp Act 2013, Act 873, by Parliament of Ghana to enable the Ghana Revenue Authority enforce the affixing of stamps on specified exercisable goods. According to the Act, manufacturers and importers of goods were required to begin affixing the stamps by 2015. However, it was stalled for 5 years due to some implementation challenges. A team of officials from the GRA head office embarked on an announced inspection tour to some warehouses and shops of distributors and retailers in the one municipality. The team, led by Principal Revenue Officer Nathan Dankwa, was satisfied with the level of compliance in the region.
Practically now what we see is that the new products coming out have the tax stamp fixed. The challenge is with the old stock, and some of the manufacturers have given the tax stamp to be fixed. Others are yet to do it. So the ones that do not have the tax stamp, we'll make sure they have the tax stamp. And we've seen that we took some of the products from the shelf. Yes, others too, we observe that the tax stamps are wrongly fixed on some of the products. We've also taken that one from the shelf. We expect them to do the right thing. So it's an ongoing exercise. We'll be here for a while to ensure that the products have the tax stamp fixed.
For the few dealers whose products do not have the excise stamps affixed, explain that some of the goods were old stock.
So the ones
now, if you pick them, the honest, I'm paying for it. So then it will go against you. Why wouldn't you let me link you to those who brought them?
We know them.
This explanation was not convincing to the GRA officials, hence the decision to seize some selected non-stamp goods. Some of the exercisable goods that needed to be affixed with the stamps are carbonated products, which included alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages and bottled water. Reporting for JoyNews, Rafiq Salam.
And that's it for the AM News. At least for now, we have a lot more news in the papers, and I'm checking out a headline on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. Roland Walker.
Yeah.
What's up?
Mama V.
Yeah.
I was looking at what the results are from the U.S. midterm elections, but it looks like...
it's interesting how you're interested in the stories outside. I'm interested in this one.
Yeah.
UT Bank receivers drag Ibrahim Muhammad to court over 358
The other data we had Capital Bank
discussed
also, because they are also in court. The PricewaterhouseCoopers is in courts, and look, a lot of things are going on. If you're owed, you have to go make sure that you collect your money. Good credit control strategies that so far have been employed by the liquidators and those that are taking care of the receivership proceedings so far.
All right. We have many conversations, but of course, Roland's favorite, what's happening in America. I mean, it's overshadowed all the international news stories. So we will bring you a wrap of how things are shaping up with the midterm elections in the U.S. We will be back with Joseph Akable. We will do the newspapers. Stay with us.
We'll be right back.